It sounds like we're getting feedback. All right. And a very good evening. Welcome to the March 7th Bedminster Township Committee regular meeting. I apologize for us getting started a few minutes late. Mr. Jacobs is stuck in traffic. He should be here shortly. Otherwise, we have a quorum. And Ms. Sullivan, if you could give us the Open Public Meetings Act statement.
Yes, sir. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to Courier News in Somerville, Burnasville News in Burnasville. All subscribers also posted here at the Township Municipal Building as of January 14th, 2016.
I'll ask you to join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get too far into this, there are just two things that I wanted to mention tonight. A slight, it's going to be kind of a hybrid meeting tonight. We're going to have a very short regular session here. We've got some folks here waiting to chat, and we're going to get to you very quickly. And it's an open meeting, but then we will move the open meeting down the hallway for a budget work session. It is our goal to finish the budget tonight. So that may run rather long, but that is also still a public meeting. Something else before we get too far into this, I did want to mention for the record, and I just wanted to note the passing of John Groff. John Groff and his family have been in Bedminster for an awful long time. John was a great contributor to this community and the surrounding communities, and in fact in 2010 ran for this job up here as Township Committee. And if that's all he did, he contributed to the public court of opinion and of ideas, and that helped Bedminster. So our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and we note his passing. We have minutes to approve, regular meeting minutes from February 16th, executive session minutes from the 16th, and the February 22nd budget work session number 3. Any comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Permits and raffles. We have 3 tonight. A raffle license for the Daughters of Miriam Foundation. That'll take place August 15th, 2016. Trump National Golf Club, 8 p.m. and off-premise merchandise. We have a raffle license for the Albrook School for April 1st at Trump National Golf Club, 6 to 11 p.m. and on-premise merchandise, and a social affair permit for the Junior League of Morristown, May 6, 2016, Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 10:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Any comments or questions? And in the absence of that, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Again, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Public comments. Twice every meeting, we invite folks to come up to that microphone, state your name and your address, and you can provide us any comments that you wish that are not already on the agenda for tonight. So those of you that are here specifically for something, we're going to get to you. Ms. Anderson, although still have to state your name.
Good evening, John Anderson, Central Power and Light, 147 Route 31 South in Flemington. As I have promised, I always want to just stop by periodically and just provide you any kind of reliability or updates that we have going on. And I just want to let you know that we did have an issue out of our Somerset sub last month. The station actually does feed into the northeastern portion of the hills in particular, and we had a loss of supply to the substation. And that was the sub-transmission line tripped offline. We got it back in a couple of minutes, and then we did patrol it and found it was a piece of equipment called a lightning arrestor had failed some time ago, but then it made contact with the conductor and tripped it offline. But we did a complete thorough foot patrol of the line from Reddington to Gillette, and we're back in business. So just wanted to stop by and let you know.
Thank you, Bernie. Bernie, what are you hearing?
John, thank you for the alerts. They're very helpful, and something goes offline, and even if it's in the area, it's helpful and goes back online. I just wish probably more people would avail themselves and get those alerts. So, they're not calling, town hall or somewhere and say, why are the lights not working, right? So, I think we have something on the website, don't we, to have people sign up for those alerts?
People where they can go report things.
Yeah. So once more and more people avail themselves, I think that it will be very helpful.
Well, I agree. And it's always kind of like an ongoing public outreach, because I'm surprised at this point that not everybody, doesn't realize that already, and they can text for outages and receive text messages back, and it works very well.
Right. Thank you, as always, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public? Okay, seeing none. We're going to change things up a little bit. Normally we would go to subcommittee reports, administrators report, but we do have some folks here that are here for a specific reason, and we would like to welcome folks from Purnell School. Whoever's going to be the lead speaker, come on up to that microphone, identify yourself, and we will welcome you.
First of all, my name is Jeff Beatty. I'm the headmaster of Purnell School in Pottersville, and thank you very much for taking a few minutes tonight just to hear a couple ideas that we have that I think is pretty interesting. I'm a newcomer to your area. I love it. I grew up in Maine in a town very similar to Pottersville, Reedfield, Maine, so it's really very similar with a river coming through the middle and the farms and all. I have a farm still in Maine, so I like the area, and we're having fun at Purnell School, bringing Purnell back into the 21st century. What I'd like to talk about tonight is just to be able to at least introduce the idea. Maybe we get to go into more discussion down the road. But in entering in what I would call a public-private partnership between Purnell School and you folks that administer, where we could share resources the school has, I'll explain in a minute, as well as what I guess Donna Martin calls the pony farm. Is that the acronym? So we
Yep.
know how
That's-
we're talking about.
That's what we all refer to it.
All right.
Yep.
And so I hike a lot down there and have gone by that place a number of times. And the work we do that I've been doing for the last 30 years and what we're doing now is integration of, sort of like if you've heard farm to school, environmental ideas. We're having chickens this year, we're having beef this year, we're actually hatching trout eggs and watching that whole process. And so that's an integral part of what we're doing at Purnell.
And Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
you're projecting very well in the room, but remember the microphone
mic?
is recording you, so
All right, I'll stand.
we want to get you for the record.
All right.
Thank you.
So specifically, what I put a proposal together, and I will, not really a proposal, but just sort of a write-up, and I'll pass it out to you folks. What I'd like to do is, and again, I don't know what the mission of that house is, the Brady House, from your perspective, so I don't want to be presumptuous that I do know that, because I don't, and I'm not sure what I propose tonight is something that you're going to, is going to be favorable to you. But from our perspective, what I would like to do is we've gone down with John, we've looked at the house, and my buildings and grounds leader here, Jane is here, we've looked at it. The advantage to me, for our girls, is to be able to have a place right off campus where we'd have access, I hope, to the river across the way. We've introduced a new life sport called fly fishing, and we're tying it in to literature and other aspects of women's development, as well as we have gardening projects, we have music projects, but all these projects are mediums in which we're going to use to teach our girls about leadership and being stewards, in the world and education. And what I'd like to do is to be able to combine the resources so that our girls, our high school girls, would actually interact with Bedminster Township School in the younger grades. And I have a curriculum. I'm going to pass it out. You don't have to look at it right now, but it's called Learn to Lead. And essentially, I have done this before where another school. We secured a building and had a similar living.
This is good.
You can go to the website Learn to Lead. So what I'd like to be able to do is to be able to bring our girls, and through taking our high school girls, teaching them about leadership, interact with the local school systems in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grades, and bringing those girls, the public school girls, out to the farm and engage in leadership activities. In addition to that, again, when we meet with a meeting, I know that I'm sure you have some philosophical and programmatic support of that building. I'm sure that you want that, but I also know that you probably don't want to be hearing about it in terms of maintenance and all that type of stuff. I don't know everything that we can do, but we did look at it, and we do feel really comfortable with getting in and with our maintenance crew and being able to, we went in and fixed the roof, which was a major leak, and it has come down inside and caused a lot of difficulties. And as well as power washing and fixing it up. And down the road, one of the things that Will brought up, that we actually did 2 years ago in our project exploration, is we took our girls and they worked with the buildings and grounds, and they redid a whole area in the basement of our school. We would consider that as well, as we'd teach them how to use a hammer by going down and actually fixing the place up. So what I'm asking tonight is for you to take a look at that proposal, ask me some questions if you have any. I don't know if you folks want to add anything that I may have forgotten. I would like to be able to go forward and at least be able to have another meeting, a discussion with folks to see if there's any possibility that we could work together in Blattersville and with the farm for the betterment of the community.
Yeah, Ms. Beatty, I was going to say that, I see that you've turned this, the Learn to Lead Environmental Center. So I guess that's what you're going to be calling.
No, all I'm doing is trying to create an idea.
Which is fine. I
Yeah.
mean, and my point is that we've always kind of thought and that the ultimate use of that would be an environmentally centered organization or project, because it is preserved space as far as the town goes, and the former owners of the property were always very generous in offering their property up for conservation. So I think you're on the right track as far as what your vision for it is and what we'd like to see it ultimately evolve into. And it has its limited uses, obviously. I think John's probably told you about what you can and can't do with it. But an environmental center, I think, you're on the right track. And
I'd be open to a lot of different things. We have no interest in residential. We have plenty at our school. We also could share, if we did interact with the Bedminster Township School, we have a lot on our campus that we could share as well. But the fly fishing and studying the hatch and bringing our girls just 2 miles off our campus, because they're on that 83 all the time, and to be able to go down there and to be able to run a curriculum in the kitchen and go across the way and fly fish, and then to be able to interact with the farms would be something that I think would be a lot of fun.
Doctor, what do you presume physically would go on in the building or around the building? I mean, just some examples. You said there's no residential. That's one thing, but what do you see? Do you see it used as a classroom? Do you see it used as administrative, a study area, a library? I mean, I know that doesn't sound like the fly fishing and environmental thing, but just give us an idea what could be.
Okay. What we have done and what we did one in Maine where we were given a building. The school is actually given a building, and we did all of our proctor training, our captains from our teams training. So I would like to take, I was just talking to my wife about the music program, and she does, when we were in South Korea, she did a program using music to teach English as a second language. So I can see taking little groups down and doing a lot of project-based activities where outside you've seen where they do project-based activities, project adventure, where it builds teamwork, and they take a concept. Let's say we took the proctors down in the fall, and they get off campus, and we would meet in the kitchen. We would probably take the word like teamwork, We might read some things. We might show a film on teamwork right there. I would probably love to keep some books there, some posters there, something that makes it look like a center. Then the field out back is perfect for, circular type of campfires if you could have it. I'd also, down the road, I don't even know if this is getting too far ahead, but yesterday when I walked down, I saw that there's horse trails on the right, and that would be a beautiful hiking for our life sports program if they were allowed to hike through there. Down the road, I don't know if they were able to tent by the river. That would be great. Those are kind of all cool things that either could work or not work. And that whole stretch, there's a lot of cans there. I think the kids could actively get involved in. I don't know if that answers your question, but
What do you envision the arrangement to be, like a type of lease, or have you thought that far? What might be the
I have.
vehicle? Yeah.
I think 5 years. It's just something I came up with in my head.
Mm-hmm.
10, but
Yeah.
but I don't want to handcuff anybody, and nor do I want to be handcuffed. But I think that if you could go into an agreement where you, in the meeting, you came through the essential things. You got to fix the roof. We've already looked at that.
Right.
Get the sump pump, get the stuff out of there. Maybe not even open up in the winter. Right now, right after that, just get it cleaned up, and then, if we did I don't know about how everybody would want to agree on the insurance and the utilities and things like that, but there's things that if you gave us a committee meeting to go work through, we could hammer them out. But I don't know, 5 years, something like that, and I suppose if you want to get out of it, you can do it.
Oh, that makes sense. How do you imagine if it became an issue that property is supposed to be dedicated to kind of the public benefit at large? How might such a lease be constructed so that the school gets to use it as it wants, but on a non-exclusive basis to some extent to satisfy? I guess in a way, you're anticipating that with allowing the Bedminster Elementary School, right? But I think anticipating that could be a kind of an issue. I don't know. I don't know how the deed is drafted.
I would suspect it may be very similar to what the Center for Contemporary Art has, whereas it's I guess, a private entity, but it's a nonprofit.
But its doors are open.
Characterizing it correctly, but
I will say that since I've been with the school for a year and a half, and I've heard pretty much every time I've met with anybody from the school that they feel the last 10 years the reputation of Purnell School has not been as great as it could be. Mm-hmm. And they kept asking, how can we change that? And you can't do it through advertising. You can only do it through real things. And I think that for me, I'd just be happy to be a part of that. Maybe some of those activities we'd be a part of. I did a thing with Alzheimer's last year in music. There are lots of different things that we could do with our girls, to work with the whole community. Mm-hmm. Or they might want to work on their own.
Yeah, okay.
Can I ask you a question? Is there a riverfront on the other side that we would be able to fly fish on?
that's part of it, yeah, I guess so.
Well, they have access, that's open space.
Yeah, that refines.
You have access to it right now.
What's that?
You have access to that right now.
Oh, okay. I thought that all the signs said.
No, the Pony Farm property is just on that side. It's just that structure and the field around it.
Yeah.
The river frontage is open space.
You can go down fly fishing anyway.
So there's no connection between the Pony Farm property and currently open space.
Yeah, we have extra rooms at our school. So in some respects, one could say you don't have to do this. At the same time, I'm taking a school over that's 50 years old. In the last 10 years, it declined in enrollment, and we've turned it around and it's starting to head back up. And I also think exciting things like an environmental center that's slightly off campus, that's a little bit different, and you go down in a van and you do, when you go there, it's for a specific reason. As for me, there's a marketing and vision advantage to it, as well as fun for the kids.
Actually, you just addressed one of the questions I was going to ask. Given where Purnell is, you're already proximate to the same river.
Yeah.
You're right there.
That's what my business manager told me tonight.
And I was going to say, so frankly, if we get into a lease arrangement, as Ken mentioned, one can concerns that we have is that the building be maintained.
Right.
Well, first, certainly it be put into
Yep.
a position that it can be occupied, and that it be maintained in a condition that it
Yeah.
continue to be occupied. And so I just want to make sure that this is not a, hey, this would be a neat idea, but rather that this is a good idea and we've got the funding and the fortitude to stay with this improvement. And seeing as you already have access to the river where you are, I just want to be sure, as the business manager said.
Yeah, he was very clear on that. Anytime you had a...
That you really thought this through rather than taking on another project.
Well, I've been thinking about this for, 3 months, and I've done this before. So, I mean, I've taken a building and we went through sort of the same things, and it does sometimes take money in order to move things forward. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at our website. We just put $150,000 into a brand new website. We had drones that came over, and so we're really on a new marketing, but also trying to take advantage of the area. And I think to be able to take our girls up and to be at a house and where we can meet, as long as the expense isn't too much. Like, I can't do a $40,000 heater this fall, but I think that, I don't know if Jason has time for you to jump up, but if we took a look at just the things, I don't know what else is going to happen to that building in the next 6 months. I think in that 6 month period of time, I think we could get it to a point where it was better than it is now. Yeah.
Just so we can get you on the audio.
You got your choice microphones.
I'm Jason Randolph. I live in Femley Road in Oldwick.
I just,
How is everybody? Just going back to your question too about including the residents and stuff. I had also talked to Jeff. I haven't talked to the Pottersville Fire Company yet, but I actually thought about bringing back the tube race and have the fire company and the school involved in that, and end it there and have like a picnic or something at the house, and the school would take care of the expense of that. So, as far as the maintenance of the house, I mean, we can handle the maintenance. The roof is leaking around that one chimney area. I don't know if everybody saw where I was talking about. It's leaking right into the house, right under the floor. So we're gonna have to address the roof issue. We'll probably have to paint. I know the copper got all stolen out of it, so we would have to contract our plumber, fix that. We would take that on. I don't know, John said something about the boiler. We'd have to look at it and see how bad it is. He said it has a new well, it has new septic, so as far as that, we're not too bad. Really, the main thing was the roof that I was concerned about. And the boiler, but the boiler, like he said, we don't need to heat it next year. We can drain it all down again and close it up for the winter.
Have you thought about a general idea of exactly how much? We haven't really gotten to that discussion with John yet, but have you kind of ticked off a few things about the repairs? Yeah, so you sound like you have a good idea as
I really don't know what's involved. I didn't want to go there and put ladders up on the roof and stuff like that. It's none of my business. So if we get, yes, let's go start looking at it and try to get numbers and stuff from you guys, and then we can go do that and get numbers, and we can really come back and say, yeah, we should be able to do this. That's what you're looking for. The boiler, I don't know. I don't know how many years are left in that boiler.
It was leaking and Donnie kind of fixed it.
Right.
But, I mean, it could work.
Exactly. We don't know until we get in there and see. I mean, the plumbing, the copper being ripped out, I don't think that's such a big deal. It's just a matter of getting somebody in.
So are you requesting formal access to do?
I would like to get access so we can look at it and really go through it. I can bring a contractor over there, for us at least, so we get a better knowledge of what it's going to need.
Yeah, I would think that's a good idea, because you may find out that there are structural defects that just make it a non-starter for you, and frankly, I'd rather that both parties find that out sooner than later.
I doubt the roof is leaking that bad that it's that structural. All right, it's definitely leaking, but I doubt it's going to be that 20,000 to fix that area. Might just be able to be repaired.
so I see kind of two things. One, I want to go up and down and get a sense of the board. If this seems to be something worth pursuing, doesn't mean we're saying yes. It means we're going to continue down that road. And then if that's the case, get a couple volunteers for a subcommittee to kind of work with this well, first let's go around the room, see if this is something we want to do.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, we've been in a dilemma now for a while on, what we think is the ultimate best use of the property. And other people have come and looked at it, and other charitable organizations and 501(c)(3)s, and it's got to be the right fit for everybody. And geography works in your favor. The fact that you're so close. We had previous interest, but it was just a little too far away from where they were headquartered. I think it's you have sounds like you got some legitimate, sincere interest in the property, and we do have to do something with it. It is an asset of the taxpayers, and we got to put it to some worthwhile use. And it's certainly not just sitting there deteriorating over time is not the right use of it. So I would encourage whatever we can do to assist Cornell School in going forward and looking at least making a proper evaluation. I think it's worthwhile to do that.
I agree with Bernie.
Jacob?
I think the question is out there whether it's an asset or a liability. From what John has told us in the past, my inclination is to regard property as an asset and that building as a potential liability. So if you can find a way that building is not a liability, that its value outweighs the cost of repair, have that be assessed.
Ms. Santucci?
I get the sense from Mr. Beatty that you want to be involved in the community and you think it would be a good partnership, and you're kind of, wrapping your head around that. I agree with regard to the liability part. It needs to be, a benefit to Bedminster as well as a benefit to the school. So I like the idea of moving forward and exploring and kind of coming back to the township committee to see what actually it all entails. That helps us as well get a picture of what we're dealing with. We don't really have that so clearly yet. I like that idea.
So having said that, we probably ought to have a subcommittee to move forth on it. Do I have any volunteers? Sure.
What would you do with it? Let's say if we did.
Back here, back up.
Get back to the mic.
What will
You don't need to.
What will you do with it if we don't do it? For an example, will you tear it down?
Well, I will tell you, you're literally at the 11th hour on this, because we made an informal agreement last year that we were going to let it go till the end of the year. And if we did not have a lead, a potential occupant by New Year's Eve, that first of the year, we're going to figure out ways to tear it down and figure out how much that was going to cost. You kind of just barely come in before we arranged for the final solutions, the execution. So, we're, as Mr. Jacobs said, I think we're concerned that it is deteriorating into a liability. And, I am also the opinion that the family that gave it to Bedminster also put some money into it beforehand. And we did have a tenant in there for a while, and I personally would rather see it go to good use than to simply be torn down.
And I don't know for sure, but my guess is around here that it might be as much as $50,000 to tear it down and get rid of the material.
Well, I think that's something we hadn't gotten to yet, but I think it's we've got to sit there and come to that cost-benefit analysis, and you frankly have to too. So I think the next step is we form a subcommittee here, sit down with you, and Jason goes through the place, John goes through the place, we figure out how much it's going to cost, figure out if it's worth it.
And that it belongs to the town, which is a 501c3? Or is it, how does that work?
Town is the municipality.
Yeah.
So can you take tax deductible dollars? In other words, could you raise money from townsfolk if the project got to be interesting and people wanted to support it?
Do we take donations?
Yeah.
Well, I think the way, without jumping ahead to the lease discussions, I think we would give you the shell of, we would hand to you, or lease to you, the shell of a structure
Yeah. But what I,
for you to
Oh.
make improvements.
yes.
Okay.
And so I was just thinking that, to end this whole thing is that it is possible. I'm not sure, what the mechanism for it, but, if it was interest to the folks of the area, let's say for women or leadership or environmental, it's possible we could fundraise for the amounts to, if they weren't, huge,
There
get
is-
it back in shape.
There is already a model in place, I kind of referred to it before, but the Center for Contemporary Art in
Oh.
Pluckaman used to be a school, used to be police headquarters here, and is leased to the organization, the Center for Contemporary Art, and they maintain it.
Yep.
And that may be a model for what we do with you all if this pans out. So it may not be exactly the same setup, but if you look at that organization, which does its own fundraising and there may be something there. That may be a good model for it. And that can all be hashed out in our further discussions.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
No, go ahead.
Oh.
Mr. Warlick, please be recognized. Mr. Warlick, who also is a long participant on our Recreation Committee.
My name is William Warlick, and I live at the Purnell School, which is the only place I've ever lived at in the north. I had a question for Mr. Jacobs. If the building were a liability, would we still be able to do programs on the property? For example, I'm on the First Education Committee for the Raritan Headwaters Association, and they're looking for areas to do some macroinvertebrate work and potentially train the Purnell girls who could lead some youth in the community. And I didn't know if the property would still be allowed to be used for something like that.
For the macroinvertebrate for the river or
Taking
on
a
the,
look- taking
on the
a look at
field
the river.
itself?
Both, kind of the whole environment.
The river, access, once again, access to the river is directly through the municipal open space, at least certainly on the Bedminster side, not on the Oblique, Tewksbury side. And the restrictions on getting access to that field, that's just through open space. I guess if you made a request, we could probably just go straight to Judy and ask for, you want to go to the field? Ask Judy to go to the field, and Judy will let you go to the field.
All right, that sounds great. I just wondered if that was a program. The Raritan Headwaters has just opened up the committee this year, and so we were looking at ways to get involved in the community. And when Dr. Beatty told me about that, I went, wow, I could go back to Raritan Headwaters and really be able to help out with them as well as the Bedminster School.
That's great.
So from our standpoint, the only other thing we need to do is, and either I can ask for it now or you can tell me later, we just need to form a subcommittee, two people on this committee that can be the folks that you go to, and you can start chatting it up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you for coming out. Okay, and we move on to a little late, monthly reports from our subcommittee chairs, and we start as we traditionally do with Mr. Payne.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. And I attended the JIF Award breakfast, which I always do. And here's one of the certificates of achievement that we got for 100% of the 2015 Safety Incentive Program for reducing lost time frequency by 10% over the 3-year average, incident rate at or below 2. And what that means is there were a number of categories that Bedminster participated in, and we were able to come away with a number of awards, and I think we were the highest award-getting town, $1,600 in awards.
Right.
All right.
So once again, thanks to all the employees and for their awareness of safety and keeping lost time and hours down, and it is recognized by the JIF, and this will go to good use.
All right. Mr. Olson.
I've several. I attended the Jehovah's Vanderveer, my first evening there, and they really know how to have a meeting.
If you could learn something from
I
that.
think we don't want to ask any more
No,
questions.
no, we're not going to go there. But I just want to share the great attendance that they got last year, so 2015, saw at least about a 30% increase in both foot traffic and internet traffic to their site. And the global distribution of people who both come to visit and are active on the website is incredible. Russia is a big user of, or I should say consumer of information about that house. Fascinating stuff. So I got a real great education. Very exciting meeting. Larry and I had a meeting over at the library. Since Larry, you're also a board member there, right? Or you have the liaison position?
I'm the liaison.
Right, with the library. You can dive more deeply, but essentially it was the follow-up meeting to, along with our acting chief, to do a security review of the library with regard to its current video surveillance. And where we left that is we asked our IT expert to come up with a recommendation as to what really would be an adequate program.
There's actually some information that we provided to you.
Okay, great. So do we want to do that now, or was that on the agenda to go deep dive? Or,
no.
Okay, so Larry and I suppose we'll follow up on that. And finally, the Board of Health, a very helpful portion of that meeting was dedicated to the Zika virus, and good news is no incidents reported in Bedminster, and we have no reason to believe that we will be affected by it, which is good. I guess the science is quickly evolving, and the early threats that, the doomsday scenario was that any woman who may become pregnant or is pregnant could be at risk, and now it seems that it's more of an association than a causal effect, and the actual risk is shrinking, according to our experts at the Board of Health. So unless you are actually pregnant or trying to get pregnant, you don't have to worry about travel outside the country. But if you're in that anticipatory state, best not go to Brazil. But otherwise, standard Board of Health. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobs?
Thank you, Mayor. We had the land use board meeting last week, just a simple planning board application. No real significant issues coming up for planning board. There's some evaluations that the mayor and I have asked the engineer and the planner to look at, and hopefully we'll be presenting some sort of recommendation in the next few weeks and months. And just upcoming, there's a library board meeting this week. No, next week. I'm sorry, next week. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Santucci?
Thank you, Mayor. We have our open space meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Other people have some scheduling conflicts. Take a look at that. We're still scheduling our joint meeting with the Environmental Commission, and we're also still scheduling our tour for April and March. Met with the Historic Preservation Commission. One of the projects that they're undertaking is to take a look at some photos and some interesting relics from Bedminster Township. Some of them being some photos of our own.
That's as a relic?
Joe, are you historic?
It's very
Is he historic or is he a relic?
No.
He's a relic?
Or hysteric?
The item is historic.
Historic.
That I relish. But, so we're trying to find a way to preserve those items. And we're going to make sure to come back to Judy to make sure that things that perhaps don't need to be kept anymore. We have, there's cardboard cutouts of that was presented in 1987. So we're going to come back to Judy to make sure we keep track and kind of keep a running tab of what we have going on, and things that maybe people would like that we are not going to be. So that's some of the things that we're working on. Based off of that. So we don't want to lose the value.
Very interesting. Well, I have two things. I attended last week was the Freeholders Mayor's Roundtable, which is now going to be a quarterly event. Freeholder Caliguire is now chairing that, and much of the discussion was on the county improvement program, which is essentially another means of lending money to the municipalities for capital projects. It's not necessarily, you know, we do very well with our borrowing when we need to, so we're probably not in dire need of that service, but it's there if we need it. And also sat down last week, NJDOT came to us. Remember when they talked to us about the new mixing bowl project over in Pluckaman for 287 and 78? Well, they've run into a bit of a snag, and the snag will actually dovetail into our budget discussions later. I'll talk about it just a little bit now, in that the off-ramp from 287 north to Interstate 78 east isn't going to change. It's not going to be looped in a different direction, but because of the other ramp that they have from 78 east to 287 north, they're going to have to move it back a little bit, move it a little closer to the Bridgewater Manor. Now, moving it closer to the Bridgewater Manor now puts it squarely on top of, I guess, a 2.5 acre conservation easement. So if you or I tried to build on a conservation easement, that's why you have easements, to tell people you can't do that. If NJDOT needs to do it for the public good, they have a mechanism to kind of wiggle out of that. But the mechanism involves us, because we are the holder of that easement. So they were looking for our cooperation to help absolve them of that easement. And the typical way that they do that, it was explained to us, was that DEP will let them do that if they can find another piece of property twice the size in that town to preserve, whether it be through purchase or through easement. Which is why tomorrow night's open space meeting may be important, because we kind of told them that they might want to attend that meeting. Well, we hope that meeting actually happens. I know they have quorum issues with the open space.
We did speak about that last meeting.
Okay.
But perhaps we can, what is the timing?
The timing is they want it done. Originally, that part of the project was the first thing they were going to do. Now they realize, because of all these permitting issues, it is the last thing that they're going to be able to do. Well, the contracts have already been awarded, and the later this thing doesn't happen, the more they're going to have to overpay or pay in penalties to the contractor. So they can't get this resolved quickly enough. But open space wise, we have a lot of candidates in the town with big properties. But when we consider our 10-acre zone as probably our biggest target for preservation, you know, anything that's not at least 20 acres is probably not worth preserving. So we really don't have 5-acre entities. But that's kind of what they're looking for. Now they also said that they might be able to put in on a larger open space project. I don't know. I talked to former Chair Allport the other day, asking her, did she remember the tail end of her tenure, if there was something in the pipeline ready to go? And she mentioned some things that weren't ready to go, but were potentials, but none of them really fit the small character that they're asking for. But we did have another option for them. And the other option is that we looked at our hike and bike path, and we have a project to finish paving that. That's somewhere around $250,000. And we also have a riparian buffer project that we need funding for, about $130,000. And we told them maybe DEP would allow them to simply fund those projects through a grant, some kind of grant, I assume. And that's shovel ready. We've got engineering's done, we've got permits, we are ready to go, and considering our budget discussions, we are ready to go to take that money. I don't know if that, we probably won't get an answer on that before our budget is introduced in a couple weeks. But more to come on that as we move into the budget session. So that was the gist of the DOT meeting last week. Having said that, I will turn things over to Administrator Sullivan.
I don't really have much of a report, other than that myself and the deputy clerk, Johnny Gibson, will be attending some training classes this week. We'll be out of the office tomorrow and Wednesday, going to classes on raffle licenses and marriage licenses.
All right. Discussion on introduced ordinances. I don't think we have one. Introduction of ordinances, we do not have any, but we do have two ordinances for public hearing tonight. Beginning with ordinance 2016-001, an ordinance amending ordinance 1994-02, establishing the sewer fees, rules, regulations, sewer connections within the sections of the Township of Bedminster. This ordinance would adopt an amendment that would provide a procedure to be followed for a sewer bill adjustment following say a water line break that might impact the sewer users' charges. Because remember, their sewer bill is based upon water usage. Does anybody have any comments or questions about?
Well, Mayor, as you know, we had the sewer advisory meeting, and this was.
Well, and let's open up the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
So can I get a motion to open the public hearing? I apologize.
That's
I
okay.
asked for comments and now I just cut you off, so
Okay, no
that's my bad. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Now I can let you go.
This was brought up at the sewer advisory meeting, and all the members concurred that they're fine with the concept. They are an advisory board, obviously, so they did advise that they thought that this was fair and equitable, and go forward with it.
Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment or question anything on this? Seeing none, I will take a motion, if nobody else has a question or comment, to motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to, for ordinance 2016-001?
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2016-002 is an ordinance to amend ordinance 2015-02, authorizing funding for a 2016 capital project for the engineering paving of Old Dutch Road East in the amount not to exceed $136,000. This ordinance would amend 2015-002, providing additional funding for the Old Dutch Road East paving project, and we have to do this because we haven't gotten a budget yet, right? Also, well, we have to have the ordinance in.
Well, to award the contract, we need the ordinance. During the budget work session, we will possibly amend this not to exceed $136,000 for the project. We may amend it to a lesser amount because we've identified some club dates.
Not be a substantive change, lower.
So in the budget work session, we will drill down on the amount. I'm recommending $25,000 decrease. We need to add
Okay. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Well, I think we're going to adopt it when we come back from the budget work session with the amount.
Okay. All right, so.
Well, the work session is a township committee meeting. We can adopt it then.
Well, you have to have a,
No, this is the public
yeah,
hearing.
you have to have a public hearing.
Right, we're having a
Yeah, you
hearing.
do that.
The meeting is still.
Is that just a question? In awarding, I know if you turn the next page, we see the bid award, but would we award the bid by formal resolution after we do that?
Yes.
And we can do that tonight too?
Yes.
Okay.
So, shall we table it till later?
Yes.
All right, let's do that.
Right.
All right, so let's do that.
But we can award it by simply amending it down, Mr. Eduardo? By amendment,
Well, it's not to exceed, so.
not to exceed, correct.
then the public hearing will be at the budget session.
Yes.
John, you good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Me?
Yep.
No, that's fine.
Not doing anything different. The subsequent resolution to award the contract with that.
Right. We can't award the contract until we have the ordinance.
Okay. All right, then we will move on to anything on the consent agenda.
No.
So we have two resolutions. One is 2016-034, authorizing emergency temporary appropriations. There seems to be a
Our
little
first-
list here.
Our first
in-
25% of our budget that we put in place at the reorganization meeting has been used up in many categories, so this is releasing the next allotment until we have the budget.
Okay. Any comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci? Aye. Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Resolution 2016-036, redemption of a tax sale certificates. And we have a whole list here in your book. Any comments or questions?
There's just one, right?
There's just one.
Oh, no,
The other
I'm
one
looking
is
at
the,
something. I'm looking at 35, which is not
Right.
tonight. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm looking at the wrong page. So we just have GIE, okay.
I'll move that.
Can I get a second?
Second.
roll call vote again, Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci? Aye. Mayor Parker?
Aye. Can I get a motion to approve the bill list pending the approval of individual invoices?
Second.
Again, roll call, Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci? Aye. Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, new business, old business discussion items. We do have the library on here, but we also have a long work session, so is there anything anyone wants to bring up?
Can I bring up something real quick?
Yes.
I guess it's old business on the property at Hillside Avenue. I did have another discussion with the people from Habitat. I basically told them to just kind of put it on the back burner for a while, that we're not ready to move forward with anything of a serious nature with them on the property. And at the last meeting, I know Larry, you mentioned that about any disposing of the property would require it to go to auction. But we also talked about contacting the adjoining property owners if they had an interest in the property. So I guess I need a clarification. If we were to go to the adjoining property owners and work out something with them, that would allow us to go outside of any formal auction of the property? How would that work, John?
Give me a second, I'll turn to the exact statute of
You're good.
Asking.
Sale to the owner of real property contiguous to the real property is sold. Provided that the property gets sold to less than the minimum size required for development. What I have to see the size of the property. What the minimum size required for development.
Well, it was a approved building lot, right?
Well,
Building lot at one time?
it was, but we also carved out the slave cemetery. So that may not give it the adequate frontage required in that zone.
Well, and there's...
And then you
and
can
we-
also
we-
whack up the property and sell it to, there's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 or 4 owners
Four.
that actually bought it.
Four.
right?
I've done a number of them recently in another municipality, but that's been near size. Less than the minimum size required. And it's about it. But if it's above the lot size, then
Then you would have to, if you wanted to dispose of the property, you'd have to do it at auction then.
yeah, you would, and the reason behind that is obviously if it's above the minimum size lot, then they want to make sure that restrictions that you get a property it's below the minimum lot size.
And my understanding is also you can whack it up so that it could be, even if it had the adequate frontage and the adequate size, I would think that with carving out that 1/10 of an acre, it may not have the adequate frontage. It still could be, that property could be parsed out to 4 different owners, and they could be given the option of buying pieces of it that are less than
No. If specifically if there's more than one owner with real property contiguous there, to said property shall be sold to the highest bidder for all such owners.
John would refer to something
And if it goes through a subdivision process, and if you went through a subdivision process of the lot, you have to make sure that whatever parcel that you subdivided I went.
Yes, and that, I think that's what we're...
Right, I went through this recently in Berners. They had an old, very small right-of-way for a water company, and rather than some minor right-of-way, they actually subdivided it by block. The village
And I think that was when this was originally brought up, I think that was the concept, that each of the property owners would therefore get a deeper backyard or enhance their property, but it would require a subdivision.
Well, you'd have to subdivide it, otherwise,
Yeah.
Again, you'd have to look to see who's contiguous, even after the subdivision.
Mayor, and the committee, do you think it's worthwhile looking at this as a possibility? Because I know we've talked about going this route, but we've never really...
Well, I think part of the problem is I don't think the neighbors were ready. I think one
Right.
house was
In foreclosure or something.
in foreclosure. There was another one that was an estate. So I think at least 2 of the 4 neighbors were probably not in a position to do that.
Right.
I think hopefully we will in the not too distant future. Some of those may be remedied, in which case maybe we would have willing participants. It sounds like that would be something that would have to be make itself known somehow.
Yep.
And I know that was our first alternative in our mindful habitat, that all had to be ironed out before we considered.
That keeps the neighborhood pretty quiet, because you wouldn't have...
No, I understand. Like I said, they did approach us, so...
No. Hey, look, we took a swing at it, and I think it was a worthy discussion. All right, any other new business, old business? Then we can go one more whack at public comments, although I don't think people are very shy about commenting at the work session. Do we have any township committee comments? We can always talk at the end of the work session.
Just real briefly, you mentioned John Graff in
Please.
2010, and that was the year that I ran for Township Committee, but I think everybody will remember John and his ministry, and the fact that he probably married a lot of people that we all know, and that's what everybody will remember him for, is his ministry.
All right, can I have a motion? We're not adjourning, but
I don't think you need anything, you're just going into a different room and keeping the door open.
all right, we don't need a motion.
Well, we're going to say goodbye to the camera.
That's right. So we will take a short recess and reconvene in the